Start us off, Carter.
Even when the dark comes crashing through, when you need a friend to carry you, when you're broken on the ground, you will be found. So let the sun come streaming in, 'cause you'll reach up and you'll rise again. If you only look around, you will be found. Welcome back to Don't Sleep on Football. Carter here.
And I'm hoping that wasn't a copywritten song.
I did not sing that well enough to be a copyright. I think we needed
No, you're
something
pretty good.
uplifting uplifting and moving after another Cats Pod Bowl, Eagles versus Bills. I think America needed that.
All right. I mean, I got a couple of takes about this game.
Do we just want to get that out of the way first,
All
and then
right.
we can just do the
All
rest of
right.
the week? I don't
Yeah.
have that much to say
Yeah.
about this week, honestly.
I mean, yeah. I don't. There's not a lot written down. Not a lot of notes. Some are incomplete notes. Um. But yeah, Eagles play the Bills in Buffalo. Final score 13-12.
As everyone wanted.
Yep. Eagles had a very strong first half, and then their defense could only do so much until the fourth quarter, where the Bills scored twice. And they did they go for field goals both
So the
times?
sequence of events, they didn't go for a field goal the entire game because they had a backup kicker in because Matt Prater's 40 and pulled a calf, who had already had an extra point blocked during the game. So the Eagles scored a touchdown on their second drive and then two field goals. The Bills scored two touchdown drives but missed the first field goal, so they decided to try and end the game on a 2 point conversion in which Josh Allen missed Khalil Shakir in the end zone.
Yeah,
Um,
just kind of outright.
Honestly, it's the discourse of this. One, I always say I'm not going to care. I'm going to learn emotional detachment. But because one of our friends in our fantasy group, one Danathan, is a card carrying member of the anti Josh Allen club, it just gets in my head so much. I get so worn down by this. I get so beaten down whenever the Bills blow it against the Eagles. And I mean, one, I will say, what the hell was up? Like, that wasn't a fumble. First off, there was a play in which Josh Allen rolls out, tries
Yeah.
to throw it away, and the ball ends up rolling. We have called that, and like, if we want to just say that's a fumble from now on, that's acceptable because it kind of looks like a fumble. But we can't arbitrarily decide to call that differently after decades of ruling that as an incomplete pass. But otherwise, I love that so much of the narrative out of this game was again Josh Allen centric because we turned the greatest team sport in the history of the world into a stand war between quarterbacks, like we're debating Sabrina Carpenter and Chappie Ron. Um,
Hey,
but
Chappie
it's
Ron
this.
has a great accordions performance.
Yes, yes, we all know. But for me, it's Dan Orlovsky talking about how Josh Allen has no excuses this year. This is the year he has to win the Super Bowl. The team is good enough around him. Whereas watching this game should be sobering for Bills fans due to the sheer lack of talent on one side, like one side of the field compared to the other. You, for some reason, decided to pivot your offense to a power running game. And yet your offensive line got absolutely manhandled in this game, like they have anytime they've gone up against a good defensive line this year. Their best wide receiver is a tight end who didn't play this game. Their second best receiver is a slot receiver named Khalil Shakir, whose average depth of target is 4. Somehow, Keon Coleman is still in the top 4, sorry, passing yards for this team, despite being a healthy scratch for the 5th week this year. Uh, your defense is fine. Honestly, my biggest takeaway is watching, like, the defense got a lot of heat for giving up a lot of third downs. But I would say, like, half of those third downs, those third and longs, were A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith doing something superhuman. And it just pisses me off that this is how we've chosen to build a team around Josh Allen. Like, I wish I could just shove this footage in Brandon Beane's face and be like, look how easy this looks. Look how simple this looks. Look how easy it is when you have two elite wide receivers, how easy it is to make plays. The entire problem with the Buffalo Bills is they've kept trying to get cute in terms of quote unquote making it easier for Josh Allen. Like, oh, we're going to invest in the running game. We're going to have like running backs splitting out wide. We're going to be able to have a lot of checkdowns. Or you could just draft a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Oh, a tight end. It's going to be such a mismatch. It's going to like change the game. We're going to get a wide receiver, a pass catching tight end who's going to pop all these zone plays. or you could just get a wide receiver. It's just every road they've chosen to make this like the most clunky, inefficient team who's always trying to outsmart the opponent instead of just being good.
I've said it once, I'll say it again. Why do they just like the Bills would be another tier up team if they gave Josh Allen like one wide receiver, one quality wide receiver. That's really it. I think that's what's keeping their offense from being next level is like they kind of had it with Stephon Diggs, but they didn't really have like the established weaponry that is Knox, Kincaid, Shakir in the passing game, and like Cook was running at that time, but also was he running at that time?
He joined the team, I believe, in 2022, but he was like effectively a backup.
Yeah.
Or no. He was no, he was 23 because we got Cole Kincaid. Yeah,
Regardless,
in 20 after the 13 seconds game, we got James Cook.
regardless, they went from having basically one distinct offensive weapon to having a couple, but they don't have like an
Anyone
outlier
who's
for Josh to throw to that isn't a tight end. Because I'm gonna agree with you. I think it's kind of like a cuteness idea of like, hey, these guys are they gonna block? Are they gonna catch the ball? Are they gonna run? Like, what are they gonna do? And it's just
one of the biggest, yeah.
it's just cute. And then
When you actually have to play like real football against a real team, you get completely physically dominated. Which the whole point of pivoting this offense to running was to not get physically dominated anymore, and it still happens, and then you're fucked because you can't throw it to anyone. Like, again, it's so funny looking at like the final, like some of the final passing stats for this team. Dawson Knox is third on this team with 400 yards. For starters, that should not be your third best pass catcher. But for reference, the 2021 regular season, arguably the best this offense has ever looked with Stephon Diggs and Cole Beasley. It was Diggs at 1,000, Beasley at 600, Emmanuel Sanders at 600, Dawson Knox is at fourth. At best, he should be your fourth pass catcher. Now it should probably be fifth or sixth because you have a tight end who is nominally supposed to be ahead of him. And that's not the case. And at this point, I'm not even asking for like a true bona fide, like I think the difference is people are like pundits seem to assume we're like demanding Justin Jefferson. I'm under no delusion that we'll be able to afford Justin Jefferson or AJ Brown. We need Jacoby Myers. It's so funny that Sean McDermott keeps referencing Jacoby Myers in all of his press conferences. It's such a passive aggressive dig of like, yeah, the Jaguars look like a Super Bowl contender now because they just have one adult in the room who's a big boy who can run big boy routes against man coverage and get open.
yeah, no, literally.
That you don't need to scheme things for.
I did say that they needed a wide receiver one quality to be the next tier up, but they are still a good team. Where it's just like if they got Shaheed from the Saints instead of him going to Seattle, that would be a jump in increase. Myers,
Right.
jump in increase. Hell, if they even drafted somebody smart.
Yeah, it's you know what it is. I think Tom Brady maybe had his best note of the year when that flea flicker or hook and ladder happened, where it's like, how little faith do you have in the players on your team that your best option, at least when it happened in Houston, it was a 4th and 20. What the hell else are you going to do? You don't have plays outside of 4 verticals. You don't have a play for this. Like, so yeah, your only option was a hook to do something crazy. How little faith do you have in your skill position players that on a 4th and 10, which is still very long, but not insert like a normal amount of yards a team can get on a play?
Yeah.
Why? How is that your only option? There's an arrogance to it. There's like the worst thing that happened to the Bills was Josh Allen winning MVP last year. Yeah, it worked, but they didn't get anything from it. Now you wasted that play. But yeah, there is and I'm sorry we're just talking about the Bills. I don't know how much more we can say about the Eagles other than, yeah, their defense is really, 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 really good. There was
like they played what was the time of possession? Okay, like a solid 35 minutes of the 60-minute game.
Yes, and it didn't look like they were tired until literally the last drive.
Yeah. Last quarter, they were looking beat up and tired, but that's because the Eagles' offense only got in 54 plays.
Jesus. There was that one sequence. It might have been the first drive for the Bills to start the second half, or it was like the first like caught punt, where I believe it was sack, stuff, and then they tried to do like a cute little screen pass to a wide receiver. Just gets absolutely eaten at the line of scrimmage. Just physically dominant over the team. But yeah, it's just and again, it's so frustrating that like so many. It's two things, and then we'll wrap it up and we'll actually talk about all the other games. I mean, this was like the marquee game of the 4 o'clock slot, so we can probably spend a little more time on it than most.
Yeah.
But it really is like the arrogance of watching Josh Allen win the MVP last year, when our turnover differential was one of the highest of the decade, like one of the best turnover to forced turnover ratios of the decade, and the fact that the Josh's sacked pressure rate, the only relevant statistical comparison was like Peyton Manning's prime seasons and Tom Brady's prime seasons. It really is the meme of like, relax, bro. All you need to do is have a series of borderline impossible circumstances happen in perfect succession, one after the other, and then you're golden. When in reality, that offense last year was truly dumb luck. Like, this was not a winning offense that you put onto the field last year, and Josh Allen elevated it. And he's only marginally elevated this year, and you're seeing the downside to that. You're seeing the downside of not forcing as many turnovers. You're seeing the downside of having more turnovers. And ultimately, I just can't, like, as far as I'm concerned, our season is over. The minute Josh tried to get away from Myles Garrett and hurt his foot, and it's so obvious that the foot is worse than they're saying, because they made a weird comment the other day about, oh, it's the best it's felt in weeks, which really is Josh Allen code for, like, yeah, I'm like, that is such Josh Allen code for, like, yeah, he's really hurt, and we're going to find out how bad it was. Like, we did this during the DeMar Hamlin year where he tore his UCL, and, like, he spent everyone was like, what's wrong with Josh? Why is his accuracy down? It's like, I don't know, man. He tore a tendon in his elbow, and he can't aim right.
Yeah, he's just
But, like,
futzing around.
yeah, the entire claim to fame, like the entire chance that this team could win a Super Bowl is the Cook Allen backfield was better than any other backfield, and that the defense was just okay enough, like capable of enough, like just enough stops to get him over the top. And now that Josh Allen can't move, you saw it in that game. He didn't try to run that much. He basically gave up on running at some point.
Yeah, it was kind of just it was kind of weird for him because like if you go back to last season, Bills versus Eagles, was it last season or the season before, where you see him just hardcore sprinting to the sideline every time the D line broke through, and one of my favorite moments of all time watching Jordan Davis chase Josh Allen out of bounds, where it's like Josh Allen is a big dude. It is very, very rare you see him being chased by somebody who's like clearly bigger than him, and that happened with Jordan Davis. That was
Exactly.
terrifying. And now that dude is in way better shape, and it's even more. He's even more terrifying, like with that.
Exactly. And it's like, it is so stunning that both Brandon Beane, the GM, and Sean McDermott, the head coach, both were like key members of the Cam Newton Carolina Panthers Super Bowl run. And it just befuddles me that after watching Cam Newton take one too many hits and then just kind of lose his ability to throw by age 30, it's baffling to me that their takeaway was, let's build an offense where he needs to run to make it work, and not, let's build the best four-man passing offense we possibly can. Because the only way this was going to work now that Josh can't run is a drop-back passing offense, and we just don't have that. Like, again, if we can't, like, force teams to play us, if we can't force defenses to focus on the run, we just can't get anyone open. Like, our best offensive tools for this game were deep shots to 40-year-old Brandon Cooks and deep shots to not 40-year-old Terrell Shavers. Terrell Shavers, a practice squad darling who has worked his way onto the roster and has already passed Keon Coleman, which is sobering. That's not a sustainable offense. And the way the playoff bracket is breaking so far, it just things are going to get really ugly really fast, I think. And I just need to shove it in Danny's face once. Is that so much to ask? Yeah. God.
No, we like Danny.
I know.
A cool one.
I know, but he gets so annoying about it.
I think it just depends for the Bills on And it's kind of going to be a similar situation for the Eagles of their offense versus the other team's defense in the playoffs.
Mhm.
Where, like, for example, a matchup that can't happen. So, to keep it kind of like anti-jinx free and jinxing free, if the Eagles were to play the Texans, for example,
Yes.
really good defense, and their offense is predictable and, you know, kind of like, all right, like, what are we gonna be doing next? It's first down. We're gonna give it to Saquon, and he's gonna run it. And then you have Will Anderson Jr. just showing up like it's nothing.
Right.
That's a terrible matchup for like the Eagles. But if they played against somebody of more of a Chargers quality defense, it's like, all right, we saw that game where they kind of like the Chargers did win earlier this season, but it was a little bit more sketchy than some of their other losses. And a Monsters Inc.
Mhm.
game. It was terrifying to watch. But it's
Yeah,
like
but
the Eagles
we'll remember it.
Eagles offense knows how they can go against them, and I feel like it's the same with the Bills. Like Bills versus Rams, oof, for the Bills.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
Bills versus this
if they somehow
falling
make it to
apart
the Super Bowl,
Packers,
they're one of two teams where I'm like, if we have to go against them, I'm not watching the Super Bowl. I can't watch.
yeah. But Bills versus Packers, it's just like, all right, they're falling apart very quickly.
Mhm.
So you know what? I can make that like that could be in the favor. And then you have like other like matchups with like okay, the Rams are tough on both sides of the ball. If they were to face, let's say, the Texans, it's like, all right, your offense is going to be locked down pretty hard, so your defense is going to need to carry, and they're probably going to be able to carry versus the Texans' offense, especially if Davis Mills gets snaps.
Jesus Christ.
I'm not saying
Davis
I'm
Mills.
not saying he's gonna get snaps, but yeah,
You got to be prepared for anything this season. It really is stunning how this year's Super Bowl is almost certainly going to come down to, oh, well, one team had a very glaring red weakness spot on their body, and the other team just kept punching it till they fell over.
yeah,
Like, this is going to be a dumb poll, but in Banjo Tooie, the sequel to Banjo
nice,
Kazooie, you go against a giant inflatable dragon in the carnival world. And I always thought it was funny how they effectively gamified the idea of weak spots, because his weak spots are the patches on his balloon body. So you have to shoot at them instead of like a big red glowy spot. And I'm like, that's kind of clever. That's like making a story explanation for why there's weak points.
yeah.
The Ludo narrative, as they call it, in the nerd, if you're a dweeb and possibly into anime. Um, but yeah, and you know what? I'm just going to say it. Dan Orlovsky, you're a chump. Like, let's be honest about what happened here. People found out that he goes on One Bill's Drive, the official, like, Bills sponsored radio or TV show,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone was calling him a homer for like 2 weeks, and they're like, "Oh, you get paid, you're a paid shill," and he got pissy because Josh Allen missed a throw at the end of the game. Why don't you go guzzle down like 12 dozen eggs like a heron and go back build a time machine so you can waste more of Calvin Johnson's career?
Are more fish eaters than egg eaters, but you know,
Yeah, but I like the image. Herons are cool. I guess it's more of a pelican, I'm imagining, but
I mean, I saw a heron flying very low the other day.
oh yeah. Well, when I do the run to town and back, there's so many like little marshes and creeks. Like there's always like two or three of them just hanging out. Fascinating birds. One
What makes
time
those
to
so
keep
great
me
about you?
from, I don't know, they look cool. They're lanky.
Their name's Great Blue
The
Heron.
funny birds. But yeah, and also one time I bought a coloring book in the Outer Banks, and they're like, "Don't open that until we get to the beach house, because a crane might steal your crayons." And I lived under constant fear that a crane would break into my home and steal all of my crayons.
That's awesome.
I don't know why they picked crane. I'm like, are those even particularly native to the Outer Banks? I mean, I guess it's like a marshy land, but I never saw one there. I saw seagulls and pigeons.
I got videos from my wife of a seagull harassing my car today.
Why? What did you do?
I did nothing. I wasn't even driving it.
Yeah, I just
Molly
something
was
about
at work and a seagull was just harassing the car. And I told her
well,
to
some
break
bird
the
keeps pooping.
seagull's kneecaps.
Some bird keeps pooping near my handlebar to open my car, and I keep having to be very delicate not to touch the poop. But anyway, shall we get to the other games?
Yeah.
It was an interesting week in terms of, like, this is one of those weeks, and, like, we're a little behind on recording this one. And it's one of those ones where all the weeks blur together because, we had, like, 5 straight days of football and my brain hurts.
Yeah, because it was Christmas football, which is like I still am fine with because Christmas was on a Thursday, which is traditionally a football day. Just throwing that out there.
We're
Next
gonna let it.
year,
Yeah, and we really got rewarded on it with it.
scroll. Next Christmas is on a Friday, where I'm not going to be okay with it because it is not a traditional football day.
Well, at least you're consistent.
Yeah, I try. Yeah, football gets Thursday, Sunday, Monday. I'll allow it. No questions asked. But these Saturday games, what?
I'm gonna be honest. I kind of wish we'd just pivot back because we used to have like more dedicated Saturday night games. Like basically, the minute college football ended, it would just be Saturday night football instead of Thursday night football. And I kind of wish we'd just go back to that. We'd all be happier. My wife would come back. My hair would grow back.
I like Thursday. Here's why I like Thursday. I would say I like Thursday football better than Saturday football because it's like a nice little like reprieve in the middle of the week of just like like when your favorite like series comes out with a new episode and it's just like and because it's only one singular game, it's like all right, I don't have to dedicate that much time or like effort to it, like watching multiple things or trying to figure out which game is best. It's just like, yeah, here's one game with two teams, like it or don't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, all right, I can get behind that. And then it's Friday. You got a little extra something to talk about at work. And then
I guess. God.
um,
Someday I'll get back to an office workplace and I'll just be the NPC. Like, how about the game last night? It's my destiny. But anywho, we're going to start with Saturday night football. Baltimore, Derrick Henry, flex. So on Saturday night, it's kind of one of the few good games we had in these primetime slots. The Baltimore Ravens beat the Green Bay Packers 41-24. And I'm going to say the game was actually a lot closer than that score would indicate. I was actually kind of blown away how good the Packers looked considering they were starting Malik Willis. I don't know what it is about this Matt LaFleur Malik Willis combination, but they just make gold together. I don't know what in Matt LaFleur's play calling repertoire just makes Malik Willis look so much better than he looked at any point when he was playing in Tennessee. Going into the fourth quarter, it was a 27-24 game. Unfortunately, Malik Willis gets knocked out of the game due to an injury. He ends up getting hit, I believe, on a scramble. Oh, no. It was after that. He gets injured during the play, just isn't going to come back in, and Clayton Tune ends up coming in, throwing an interception, and basically ending the game. And then Derrick Henry basically calls game. A 24-yard touchdown run to fully put the game out of reach, if there was any question. Derrick Henry ended up going for, let me get the official numbers here, 36 carries for 216 yards and 4 touchdowns. He is going to end the year with 1,595 yards and 16 touchdowns. Keep in mind, this was considered a disappointing year by his usual standard.
Yeah. And they're fighting for a playoff spot.
And they might not make the playoffs. But yes, at some point,
they just needed to give him the ball and then watch what happens.
Right. I do think this underlines why it really was. It really is disappointing that like this version of the Packers is a little hampered. Like they've lost a lot of skill position players, but also losing Micah Parsons really does underline like you got Micah Parsons explicitly so you wouldn't have to. It would make up for the deficiencies you have on run defense. And when you lose that pass rushing threat, you're like, oh, we don't have anything now.
Yeah.
And that really came to bear. And yeah, it is like baffling because last week, literally, they lost that game effectively because they didn't give Derrick Henry the ball enough. And this felt like an, oh yeah, well, watch what happens when we do give him the ball a lot.
And then he just
And it's like,
smokes them.
Yeah, and then you're like, yeah, see what happens. I at some point I really do think we have to have discussion.
We agree with you. This is what.
Yes, this is what we wanted, or this is what we were waiting for. It really does get to the point though where you are like, do we just? Obviously, he's not had a lot of playoff success, unfortunately, Derrick Henry. Like, it really feels like in terms of legacy, like get a Super Bowl, get maybe get an offensive player of the year, like. But he might just be the best running back of all time because he is already 32 years old. He's past your prime effectively. His last 2 seasons since he got to Baltimore, 325 carries for 1,921 yards. Basically, he was outpacing his 2,000-yard year on 50 less carries. Effectively, like 3 games worth of carries, and he almost passed his 2,000-yard season.
Yeah.
And another season where he got 300 carries and 1,500 yards, averaging 5 yards a pop. He is, that's not including his deranged carry numbers in college and high school. He, by any account, he should be breaking down. And I think the lesson from this is I'm just never going to doubt him again. I'm just going to believe in him till the wheels come off.
As long as he's on a team that it's not just like the him show,
Mm-hmm.
Like, you throw him on, like, they have enough weapons. With Lamar, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, who I still support, even though he seems like he's kind of on his way out a little bit.
It is funny they gave him another contract this week, and they're just like, actually, we're just going to run the ball the whole game. That sounds fun.
But I think it's like when he's not your sole reliance, he's going to be insane for years to come. If he's your sole reliance. Say they send him back to Tennessee.
It'd be kind of funny if they did that for no reason. Right. God, why? Yeah, there's just like every contract or every trade has, or like every signing has like a 3-year return period, so they just send him back.
Yeah.
But yeah, I if nothing else, I really do think like he's the LeBron James of the NFL is completely apt because I'm like, he's a bumblebee. By no reasonable metric should he be able to do this. Yet here we are. It really is like, if he even plays for like 2 more years, he's going to end up in the top 5 rushing all time. And yeah, just another like sort of iconic game to put in his cap that might have saved the Ravens season. Because we will talk about the lowlights, but the window to win the AFC North has suddenly reopened.
Yep.
Anyway, Sunday night shootout. So shall I say the line, Bart?
Say the line.
Game of the year. At this time of year, focused exclusively in the Greater Bay Area. Although, see, that doesn't work because again, it's actually a time in which it makes sense to have good games.
Yeah.
But yes, the Chicago Bears played the San Francisco 49ers, and it's funny because in the moment, were we playing like Catan or something? Yeah, we were playing Catan.
It didn't seem...
You had a quip like, man, I wish we were watching this game. And then I went back and watched it. I'm like, yeah, I wish I watched that live.
Yeah, it was one of those games where it had a very, like, cold and, like, a little bit of a cold start where it took a little bit for things to get... Like, they both scored twice in the first quarter, and it was just kind of like... But, like, starting to watch it, it's just like, all right, like, this is kind of going to be, like, a little bit of a back and forth. And then it's just, like, middle it's on Jack, and I'm like, oh, shit, this is, like, a game.
Right. Basically, by the end of the game, it was just one touchdown after another. I forgot the opening play was an interception return for a touchdown. I do think these are strikingly similar teams in terms of, like...
Quality.
They are built... Yeah, in quality and in terms of like what 2 great offensive coaches elevating what on paper didn't seem like nearly as much going into the season. I do think like no matter what happens to San Francisco for the rest of the year, the score was 42-38 for people who aren't keeping track at home.
In favor of San Francisco.
Yes, Brock Purdy looks infinitely better than he did last year, which was their year from hell. Their leading receiver is Ricky Parasol and Kendrick Bourne. And obviously, Kittle's been in and out of the lineup. Their nominal best receiver has been going on an AJ or Antonio Brown tear. They just like sent him home. That whole thing with Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
And honestly, like this game really did make me appreciate, like, even if I'm not the biggest Shanahan fan, what he's able to do with this offense, what he's able to do with, like, not necessarily the best hand, how he's still able to get incredible production out of Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, who, even though he's averaging sub 4 yards a carry, I'm like, are we sure he isn't the MVP? Are we positive?
Still so sneaky good.
Yeah, he had 2,000 all-purpose yards. He almost was the first running back in history to have multiple thousand seasons. I believe he is going to cap around 900 and something receiving yards. So he just came up short. He's one of only 3 to do that ever, and he almost did it again. It's some of the most fluid, beautiful runs I've seen from him all year. And then on the other side, again, I'm becoming a bit of a Caleb Williams homer. Like, I need them to win at least one playoff game so this doesn't become the Justin Herbert. Like, no, you guys don't understand. The numbers are good. He might just there was one pass to Colston Loveland where it didn't look like he even flicked his it looked like he just flicked his wrist. He didn't move his arm that much. And I'm like, he might just have the strongest arm in the NFL. It just laser beam about 40, how long was it? 36 yards into the end zone for a touchdown. Luther Burden again looked like a freak of nature. 8 I'm going to kill
Every time
I'm looking at
I'm just like, man, the Bills should have picked that guy up.
2 years in a row where if we just drafted a wide receiver, we'd be going to if we just drafted Ladd McConkey, we'd be in the fucking Super Bowl. If we just drafted Luther Burden, we're in the fucking Super Bowl. Man, it's a good thing that our GM didn't make a spectacle of himself over getting wide receivers, because that would look... I'm sorry, I'm getting a piece of paper handed to me. Oh. But yeah, absolutely infuriating on my end. But honestly, the biggest thing on top of how good Caleb looked, because again, it's everything you want from Caleb. A just absolute laser beam of a arm, great under pressure, he was moving and grooving. There were 3 or 4 times where he just made again, if the meta of the NFL now is to find the superhuman quarterback, this was his he is a superhuman game. Mm-hmm. And he lost, even though they lost it, I have a lot of respect for him. I think it's funny because so many people gave the Bears crap for drafting Colston Loveland over Tyler Warren, but I do think it kind of worked out for both teams because Warren works so much better in the Shane Steichen offense where it's he can be a fullback, he can be a tight end, he can be a wide receiver. Whereas Colston Loveland, in a scenario where Kelsey retires and the championship belt for best tight end in the NFL comes up, I'm on receiving merits, I am kind of oh, Colston might be the surprise getter of that belt. In terms of my biggest takeaway is this is a good example, and it's applicable to a lot of teams. If you can't have a good defense, have a defense where you can draw up 1 or 2 good plays at the end of the game to make a difference. Because ultimately, this game comes down to a goal line stand by the 49ers. They only rush 3, drop everyone back, and have a spy on Caleb to just add that pressure of a guy directly in front of you. And what's crazy is he still almost made the play. It got into the end zone. If the receiver was able to break a second earlier, he would have had it. But honestly, a game that I tip my cap to both of these teams, even though I don't think either of them really has the talent, defensive talent right now to win a Super Bowl. I'm I do kind of want to see them at least put on a show in the playoffs.
They're making a march for it, and they're both confirmed?
Yes, I believe they're already both locked in.
Locked in last week.
Again, Shanahan probably isn't going to win Coach of the Year, but with the roster they have, with the amount of injuries they've had, that they could be the number 1 seed if they beat the Seahawks next week.
He's truly
I don't know how you don't reward that.
He could with what he's got, and it's stupidly beneficial to him. So
oh yeah.
As much as I'm not a big 49ers guy, even though I love George Kittle and everything about him, it's one of those things where it's just I can't just outright like you. I still have to kind of respect you because they lost Purdy for a good chunk of the year. Their wide receiving room has been a weird revolving door. Kittle's been in and out all season. Christian McCaffrey's been a mainstay this season, though.
The guy with tendonitis in both of his calves last year is the only guy who's been able to stay healthy.
Yeah. But
The guy where it's like, is he going to play anymore?
yeah. So it's like, ah, damn, I respect what they've been putting up with, but I feel like if they get put up against like the Rams, no, they wouldn't be against the Rams. I mean, unless they beat the no, if they beat the Seahawks, then they would get the bye. Uh, if they get put up against insert good defense here,
Mhm.
it's like nervous.
Right.
But I think they got this very fun, like respectable. All right, we're like kind of falling apart, but we're making this work. And the Bill and the like Bears, I feel like is like a little less like falling apart, and we're just kind of filling in and having great coaching. Where it's like, oh yeah, like Ben Johnson knows what he's doing with like Caleb.
Right.
And then like, oh yeah, we know how to use DeAndre Swift. We know how to use Monungai.
Right. Everything else for the Bears for the rest of the season feels like bonus points because it's like the biggest questions coming into this year. Does Ben Johnson have what it takes to be a head coach? Sure looks like it. Is Caleb Williams going to live up to the hype? Starting to feel that way. And all of the offensive weapon, like the sheer amount of money you've invested in on the offensive side of the ball, between the linemen, between your like diverse wide receiver core, all of that's worked out. Like all of the stuff you really needed answers to this year has been answered. And the bigger question is just, all right, well, can you get the defense like just to adequate? Can we get the defense to adequate?
Yeah, their defense.
Assuming the offense keeps developing, can you at least get the 15th best defense?
Yeah, their defense does have a lot of scores against them over the season. A lot of games where the opposing team scores at least thrice, if not more. Looking at you 47-42, even though they won. So their defense kind of needs to rein it in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the talent is there. I think the Bears, I don't want to say they're going to be like one of those hot teams for the next like couple of seasons. Like, I kept saying it's like with like towards the beginning of the season where it's like, are we at that point where the like GOAT quarterbacks of like Mahomes, Allen, Jackson and stuff, they're kind of like Herbert, apparently all exclusively AFC quarterbacks.
Well, we got to get at least one of these guys to the NFC. We got to balance this out.
But like all those like AFC studs are kind of working their way out, and we're gonna start getting in the next generation with Stroud, with possibly Williams? Question mark. I feel like
I'm all in.
One terrible season, one good season. He's riding a fine line. But like with that, like
I believe
that like the starting emergence of the next like group of great players, and I think the Bears kind of has this fun little niche, at least with how they're playing under Ben Johnson, where it's just like we can, if they play things right and they play things smart, they can turn this into a possible dynasty level standings.
Mm-hmm.
But they could also just as easily blow it and be like a 2-season wonder, where they have 2 great seasons and then contracts catch up to them real harsh.
Right. It is. Well, again, it's the problem we ran into Houston, where it's like progress is linear. The line always goes up, and then it's like, oh wait, this offensive line is not very good. Oh, Diggs got injured, and then Tank got injured, and suddenly the receiving core is a bit barren. Yeah, it could bounce either way, but I don't know. I'm just gonna try to enjoy the vibe for the first time the Bears have a good offense. Maybe since Jesus Christ, Walter Payton.
Yeah, the Man of the Year award guy.
Yeah, God, that's weird to think. Like history goes so long, it's just like, oh, it's the Man of the Year guy. I mean, it's funny how like sports try to memorialize their important players because like the NBA did such a big push for Bill Russell near the end of his life. Like they renamed the NBA Finals MVP because he technically never won one because the award didn't exist yet, despite winning 11 championships. They had him come out for like a bunch of different events because like he had kind of like shrugged off his NBA career and kind of like went out to the wilderness. Bill Simmons did a great piece on it. He made the note of like he lived on the Mercer Islands in Washington, which is like basically geographically the furthest you can get away from Boston in the continental United States. But no, it is interesting that it's like, oh yeah, Walter Payton, the Man of the Year award guy. But anywho, our don't sleep on games. Like I said, kind of a dry week for highlights here. Some fun games, but not a lot of like consequential, you need to know stuff. You picked New Orleans at Tennessee. That was a fun game.
I was gonna say that was the game where I picked it last week, like as my prediction, and I'm gonna stick with it. It was just a fun game. There was technically no stakes in the matter of it, and now
Truly just a draft positioning game.
now there is stakes in the matter of it. But it was a fun. It was a very fun back and forth of a lot of young talent on both sides.
Mhm.
Rookie quarterbacks, rookie receivers, just really kind of having like people that have very little names and Chris Olave.
Yeah, don't look now. Chris Olave is top 10 in every receiving statistic from catches to yards to touchdowns to, well, not average, but that's skewed by like guys who get one pass. Really, honestly, it is kind of a weird feel like for all of like the death march that the season seemed like it was going to be for the Saints. Like it's actually kind of a feel good story.
Yeah.
Like they're going to end up like what 5 or 6-ish wins. They've looked good at times. Tyler Show has showed enough where you can at least run it back with him. And you go from there. And a guy who looked like he was going to be out of the league less than a year ago is one of the best receivers in the league.
Yeah. No, they're just like they've made a good enough standing where it's like, okay, we have the pieces for next season because they're very quietly 6-10 now after a very cold start.
A feisty 6-10.
Yeah.
And also, like, the Titans looked good. There was a very funny play where Ward was trying to scramble around and literally got the ball taken out of his hand, which is like, I don't know. For my rookie quarterback, I can live with that. Of like, again, it's teaching. It's teaching them turnover. Right. Yeah, it's like for a developmental team and for like a first overall pick, I'm willing to have a couple plays like that are like arrogance plays, learning like what you can and can't get away with in terms of how you hold the ball, how you throw the ball, what windows you think you can make. It's not, again, that's why I think like I feel better about him than I did Levis, because Levis, it was also like, no, you're catastrophizing on the field. It's not that you believe you can make this play. It's you're desperate to do something on the field.
Yeah, and it's also, I feel like we've been having a very good and improving more and more as the season goes, showing with Ward, Amanor, and DK, and they're all 3 rookies. I think this is very quietly a very good like triple threat group where you can kind of, if you get behind a strong offensive line to protect Ward long enough, I feel like you get this kind of like the beginning of the season in Colts vibes where it's just like, are you going to say that these guys are the guys? No. However, is it actually a very strong combo? Yes.
And my don't sleep on game was because I really was because I didn't want to pick any of the holiday games, so it kind of limited my choices. Giants Raiders, which basically was a battle for the first overall pick. So by all accounts, the Giants are running.
Yeah. Like this pick.
Mostly because like this basically alters the draft order completely. It basically locks the Las Vegas Raiders into the number 1 overall pick. The Giants won 34 to. Oh, sorry, I had the numbers officially right here, 34-10. And I just think it's very telling that you really do, when you hear someone talk about their team, you really learn the intricacies. And I've just been listening to someone complain about the Giants for like a year now, talking about how the owner's sons are like ingrained in multiple positions of power, how they're running it back with the same GM who's built this mess, how like of like the 8 games they've won in the last 4 years, 3 of them were in weeks 17 and 18 to knock themselves out of the first overall pick. It truly is just a like, I don't believe in tanking, but it really is just the like how bad teams stay bad in perpetuity of like
I mean,
just never the right moment, play at the right time.
yeah. However, I agree to that, but I also disagree to that. I think these were still very good and important showings for a defense where they held uh, Genty to 60 yards
Hmm.
on 16 catches or carries, which is kind of nuts. And like this was definitely not a full operational Raiders, but
Right.
I think this was
I
one of
think
those cases of the bones for the Giants are now there. Dart had a phenomenal game in my opinion. He went 22 for 30, 207. Um, he didn't get any passing touchdowns, but he did get 2 rushing.
I have I'll talk about it when we do our question of the week, but I have some thoughts about Jackson Dart right now. It is insane to think that the first game of the season, the Raiders beat the Patriots.
That's
But I really,
crazy.
again, it is very, very telling that you look over the schedule, you look at the games the Raiders have played, and it is so damning that so many of these teams could argue they had their best game against you.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably the best game the Giants played all year.
Oh yeah.
It's absolutely the best game the Eagles played. The Chargers beat you 31-14. The Browns beat you 24-10. Like, I think it's so damning that it's like truly, because we've talked about like what teams are in bad positions, what teams like what teams do you believe in who are probably changing their coaches and what teams don't you? There's so little to look forward to on the Raiders right now. It is actually stunning how non-competitive they are.
They need like a complete rework, but I still stand by my theory of between Geno Smith and Kenny Pickett, they are good enough that they do not need to draft an early quarterback.
I guess.
I still stand by that.
I mean, they're going to talk themselves into, but the fans are already all in on Mendoza. And I'm just like,
They don't.
maybe
They
he's
do
a good
not
culture
need
guy.
a round one quarterback.
I don't disagree, but I at least can see the argument because it's like Mendoza came to the Indiana Hoosiers, statistically one of the worst teams in the history of college football. Like, it's actually crazy when you dig through the numbers and realize they've basically been non-competitive for almost 100 years. Uh, got them like on the cusp of a national championship. They're the favorite. They're the number one seed in the playoffs and won the Heisman. And pointedly, he is kind of like a normcore rah-rah guy, but I'm also like, do you really want to put the fate of your franchise on? What if Jared Goff had slightly less arm strength? What if Matt Ryan again? What if what if quarterback from 2000 was quarterback today?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can believe in that. I'm willing to be proven wrong. I wasn't 100% sure on Cam Ward until the season started, but like, good again. I'm like, I'd probably take Cam Ward over him. I'd at least think about Jackson Dart. Shador. Well, no, I've seen enough of Shador at this point.
Yeah. No, I'm just
But
throwing it out there once again. We are looking like we do not need a first round quarterback in the draft as of right now.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. If the Bills get bounced from the playoffs, I really do think we have to have a discussion of like, maybe we don't just automatically pick quarterback first overall. Maybe we build an actual football team. We don't need Chappie Roan right now.
Yeah. But I think this is a very good showing from the Giants. I agree with you. It was a good, like, I think some of these late season games where it is two already eliminated teams that, like, have no personal stakes in the matter, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just like, all right, we could have fun here. We could do this. Like, this is fun football to watch where it's just like, hell yeah. Like, I would be ecstatic if that was a Giants game. If I was a Giants fan, to be like, let's watch this game. this is a fun time. And
Mhm.
pretty much for like everybody that isn't a Raiders fan, it's like, no, this is gonna be a fun football game to watch. And Titans Saints, it was back and forth of just like, okay, I know this is a solid football game. I think if any of these four teams were against any team in contention, it would be like different game. But they're all equal-ish caliber.
Right. Shall we head on to the lowlights?
Yeah, it is Choke City Week 17.
An actual jarring week for teams with both seeding aspirations and playoff aspirations just to absolutely crap themselves in very public ways.
Detroit Lions choked.
Yes.
I'm not going to say
they
the Chargers and Chiefs choked because they both lost to teams that I believe are better than them.
Correct. The Chiefs are actually a team who is like deliberately trying to lose to get better. I'm sorry, the amount of people they're resting right now, they are actively trying to not win another game. And like I said, when the Bills get bounced in the first round by like the Texans or the Jaguars, and the Chiefs decide to go all in on offense and get Jeremiah Love to be their running back, I'm gonna jump. Yes.
Packers choked. Buccaneers choked. Steelers choked. Buccaneers and Steelers went from, all right, we could be the playoff guys, to losing. Buccaneers lost 20-17 against the Dolphins.
Yes. Shockingly. Yeah. Like I said, again, if McDaniels keeps his job after all this, it's because he rallied to win games like this. A shock. Yeah, again, it really is like one of those games where you kind of just have to take Tampa aside and be like, hey, you guys know, like, you have to keep winning like, you didn't win the division already, right? Like, you have to win this game to seal it. I think the worst, because Detroit, the Los Angeles Rams, the Steelers, and the Buccaneers all had kind of egregious losses they needed to not lose. Yeah. The most egregious has to be the Lions versus the Vikings, which fully eliminated the Lions from playoff contention. It was going to be close either way, but it did them in. 23-10. I think do you want to guess how many yards, net yards, mind you, Max Brosmer, when we take sacks out, keep in mind, how many yards Max Brosmer had on the day?
42.
You'd be right if you weren't counting sacks as negative yards. He had 51 quote-unquote yards, but when you factor in sacks, he had a net gain of 3 yards. You lost to a team who passed for 3 yards.
Yeah. Also, speaking of choke jobs, Rams.
Yes, the Rams lost a shocking game. It basically reopened the MVP discussion. Stafford had 2 really bad interceptions. Were both of them returned for touchdowns, or was only the one?
Both?
Yes. Oh, yep, you're right. Yes. So at one point, the score is 21-0 going into the second quarter. Absolutely stunning turn of events to start the game. Yes, going into the half. To the Rams' credit, they did rally. I actually think the Rams deserved to win this game because it came down to Stafford slinging the ball downfield 3 times and coming up just short. Puka Nacua had a one-handed catch that I just think should have counted. And I don't mean...
That was such a questionable catch that I think the rule of cool definitely...
Well, see, here's my thing. I don't even think it's a rule of cool. I think by any reasonable method... Like, we've litigated what the hell a catch is so much.
Yeah,
I genuinely think it's like...
that question.
Yeah, because he had possession as he had possession inbounds and then started going out of bounds. The defender who knocked the ball out of his hand was completely out of bounds. And even when Puka Nacua was out of bounds, the ball never once touched the ground. I'm sorry. This should fall under the category of a catch. He did everything in his power to get it. The guy who was challenging him wasn't even in the field of play. And also, the ball never touched the ground. I don't know, man. I feel like that should count. But yes, that probably knocked them out of the 1 seed conversation. Now, somehow, it's going to be between Seahawks and 49ers. And Pittsburgh is a choke job, but I was going to put in my notes the most predictable Pittsburgh Steelers loss in the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
It was very Pittsburghy.
Like when it was like it literally was like they control their destiny. They just have to beat the Browns, and it's like they're going to lose 12-3 slobber knocker. And well, they lost a 13-6 slobber knocker. But yes, it's so funny how quickly this thing deteriorated. It was like Shedeur drove them down the field twice in the first quarter, and immediately like, oh, that's the end of the game.
Yeah.
Shedeur is so funny because he also is very similar to Bryce Young, where every now and then you kind of see the vision. You kind of see him like running the offense, slinging it in the middle of the field, and then he throws the worst interception you've ever seen in your life.
No, he threw 2 interceptions in this game, and Pittsburgh still only came up with 2 field goals. What?
Yeah, I just want to go through their drives because, like, I need to know how this happened. 3-and-out punt, 10-play field goal, 4 plays in a punt, 4 plays in downs, 10 plays in a field goal, 5 plays. Okay, they did have 1 missed field goal, but I know the Browns' defense is better than their offense, but you should not have this many 3-and-outs against the Cleveland Browns.
Especially if you're a playoff contender.
Right, when you're trying to get to the fucking playoffs, man. It is also so funny, Myles Garrett was like, it felt like they were more busy trying to stop me than actually make plays. And I'm like, on one hand, I kind of felt like that's what happened against the Bills. I guess, but at the same time, it's like, hey, you know what really screws up an offense? Taking a sack. So, like, I don't know. I feel like that's just how you would design an offense against this Browns team anyway. But yeah, truly such a predictable performance. So it's going to come down to Ravens Steelers to end the season, and no one is going to be cloaked in glory after this one. I promise you.
It's going to be a mess.
Collinsworth memeing. Oh, I forgot about this.
Yeah, basically Sunday Night Football. Chris Collinsworth is just making fun of himself being like. It gets to the point where he's just like, "Here's a guy," and Mahomes this that it's just like. You're aware of this. You're making fun of yourself now.
Yes,
like previous weeks, it's like this is questionable at best, especially that Texans game. But it's like like the amount of discourse that he's had to have been exposed to, as being some form of presence online. It's like, yeah, no, he's having fun with this now.
Yes, he made a quip about how Mahomes. He literally said when Caleb made a play, "That's something Mahomes would do," and I know, he'd go. Yeah. And I'm like, and I also give him some grace because the entire argument in favor of Caleb Williams was like he has that Mahomesian sort of like runs around rubbery arm. Like, how did he get that throw off? He didn't even flick his wrist. But, like, it was very funny where it's like at some point you just got to lean it. When you're that famous, you kind of do just have to lean into the meme. There's nothing else you can do about it. Zeus punished the NFL for the arrogance of stealing Christmas. Yeah, and we talked about it. The Christmas games weren't looking particularly appealing. I guess the best game by default was Cowboys-Commanders because it was at least kind of close. Broncos beat the... Yeah. The Chiefs kind of had a shot to win, and there was a brief moment where you're like, is Kelsey going to rally one last game, get a touchdown, upset the Broncos? But no, they never really meaningfully had a chance. Meanwhile, I'd argue, even though 5 games is probably too much for the NBA now, I'd argue they had like their best slate of games in a while. The Knicks rallied from 17 down to beat the Cavaliers in exciting fashion in the Garden. The Spurs stunned the Oklahoma City Thunder. There's a fascinating... Again, I wish you followed the NBA because there's a lot of drama. Because the Thunder won the championship last year, and they were on pace to shatter the wins record. They felt unstoppable. And then, literally before they played, I believe it was either the Suns or the Timberwolves. I'm blanking on who. The coach did a whole press thing about how he's like, oh, they get an easy whistle. The league pampers them. Dude gets ejected with 6 minutes left in the first quarter, screaming his head off at a ref. Full on, like, guys holding him back. And ever since then, no one has been calling fouls on for the Oklahoma City Thunder. He might have destroyed their team. Like, they're not taking nearly as many free throws. There's a whole politics thing. But yeah, the Spurs beat them in stunning fashion. the Cooper Flag had a really good game. Basically, he's the youngest player to play on Christmas since LeBron James. The Lakers looked bad, and Jokic scored 50 points. Like, again, just kind of hit after hit. So kind of feels like the universe balanced itself. The Airbenders returned or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Or however that show goes. I don't know how it ends.
You gotta watch.
Turns out all the Airbenders were on vacation. That would be a really funny ending. We didn't get genocided. We all went on vacation. That's how it ends, isn't it?
No.
Damn it.
It ends.
Would have been a funny ending, though.
It would have been a funny ending.
We were in the Bahamas. It's just full on Disney Sword in the Stone, where fucking Merlin shows up in shorts.
Yeah.
Like, I was in the future. You can keep it.
Anyway, notable notes. We have a clinch. Houston guaranteed their spot in the playoffs with this. And I think they're the only team this week to do that. Because all that's left is the battles for the AFC North and the NFC South. I don't know why I was guessing the South like it wasn't. We weren't talking.
As if it was going to be any other division coming into the season.
Yeah.
At this point, I really do believe there is some finagling that can be done. Like the first, it comes down to like 1 or 2 games to decide who gets the first seed, and then a little finagling around the wild card spots. But there are only 2 spots left, and it's both going to be end of year divisional matchups. I will say I'm not as hot on the Texans as I was a couple weeks ago. As good as the defense is, there was kind of a hope that the offense would pick it up just a little more. And the fact that they haven't, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, the Bills almost beat, like a lot of teams are almost beating this defense in spite of like how good it is. And I'm like, surely one of these teams will get just enough offensive juice to upset not upset the Texans, but.
Green Bay also clinched.
Oh, yes.
The math was off.
Again, another team. God, it's so funny. They feel like sister teams, and a part of that's because Jordan and CJ. Christ, they were like our darling boys together. But it really does feel like both teams are very similar. Of like, I feel like you should be a tier better than this, but you have glaring holes that I can't ignore.
Houston's offensive line.
Houston's offensive line, Green Bay's defensive line, and other assorted injuries. It just feels like we're a step further behind than we need to be right now.
Yep. And then our eliminated teams, the Colts Miracle Run, formally over. Detroit,
we had to take the horse out back and shoot it.
Detroit lost to the Vikings in an embarrassing fashion, and honestly, they should have been eliminated by that.
Yeah, that feels like one of those, like, the football gods can't let you be in the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, there'll be time to eulogize this Colts season, but to their credit, they put up a fight till the bitter end. It was a close game. I believe they were actually tied going into the fourth quarter. And I'll also give Jacksonville credit for winning that game 23-17. That is a classic Jaguars poop their pants game, and yet they didn't poop their pants. They have the inside track for the division now.
Yep.
Might have actually clinched it, come to think of it.
I think they technically clinched it, but like didn't technically clinch it. If Houston wins against the Colts,
it's one of the right.
I would say 60-40 in favor of Houston, and Jacksonville loses to the Titans, which is probably 80 to 90% in Jacksonville's favor.
Mm-hmm.
Like, then I think they would swap, but this Jaguars.
The odds are very much in their favor.
This Jaguars versus the Titans is.
That would be.
You need a miracle.
I would say that's the most. Right, I was going to say. I would say that's the most predictable Jaguars outcome. But, like, again, this Jaguars team feels at least a little different. They're on a 7-game win streak.
Yeah, they're pretty hot. So are the Texans. Can't forget that. Texans also hot.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and...
Like an 8-1.
Really? Huh. AFC South beating the accusations for a change. question of the week. What is an intrusive thought you have from these last few weeks? Just like, what is one hot take, one feeling you have watching the action from the last few weeks?
I mean, I feel like there could be a lot better lineman situations.
Not a bad take.
I think there seems to be very little surprise plays. It might just be a me thing, but I feel like there's a lot of like 30-yard catch touchdowns, things like that. But there isn't like here's like this crazy ass 75 play. Um, Here's this like crazy trick play that's like I feel like the season has really mellowed out in standouty moments. If that makes sense. It might just be just the weeks and weeks of football over and over again. But like I feel like we had a very fun start to the season with some fancy stuff, and I feel like it's mellowed out into
Yeah,
just
I
kind of a lot of playing it safe games.
right. Someone did point out it's weird that the hook and ladder isn't more common. Like I do feel like people
Yeah.
are playing it pretty straight these last few weeks. And just like in terms of like known quantities, like we've had some surprises, but for the most part, the season is just kind of drolling on like as it as you would expect it based on previous results.
I feel like
Again, I maintain like the season's just too damn long.
yeah, I feel like September was so incredibly unpredictable for what the world basically thought the season was going to start at. We have a hot Patriots, we have a falling apart Chiefs, a falling apart Ravens that now that everyone's kind of in their roles, it's just like, oh yeah, we're done like being crazy now. We just want to win games. We want to make shit
Right.
happen. I feel like that's the transition that happened.
Mhm.
What's yours?
I'm not so sure about Jackson Dart anymore.
I'm
Okay. I should qualify. He's still making plays. He still has those moments of like physical skill that are like impressive. But the fact that he's still running as much as he is, a part of it is like the self-preservation angle of like, is someone actually going to be able to coach this out of him? Like, is this going to be like a 5-year and then his body's too beaten down? And then I just keep thinking about like, who are you looking at to get as a coach? Like, I am kind of like,
I think
all of his best games were with Brian Daboll. Yeah, it's like I haven't liked him nearly as much since they fired Daboll, and I'm starting to think like, do you just completely? Well, the problem is if you're going to completely cut ties, you need to fire the GM too.
yeah,
But like, I don't know.
I think the biggest issue for him is he's operating without neighbors, so that's a very significant amount of weight onto him.
Mhm.
He's operating without Scadaboo, and he like Tyron Tracy. I feel like he's good, but he at least Scadaboo brought this insanity with him
Mhm.
to make it like a lot more fun. And but they're behind like a mesh fence, so it's
Yeah,
like
I
they're not like
guess.
there's a little bit of stoppage there. I'm not. I think if you put him behind a little bit of oomph, like just one standout guard or someone that just can really hold back a line and give him neighbors and maybe like a better wide receiver too or a better tight end than like Bellinger and stuff. I think that's gonna be like if that's gonna be his how good are you point is with
Yeah, I guess I was also thinking this because like we're not rolling out looking at quarterback, and then I'm like, yeah,
This
but
is
like
the
again, the
last
quarterback
year.
options aren't great. So like, I feel like this is just them gearing up to throw him overboard next season to try and get Arch and just go be like, you know when we were happy when we had a Manning? Can we go back to that?
I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Honestly, I think he's earned the right to play next season as a starter with his actual like starter setup that he should have of weapons like neighbors and stuff. I think he's earned that at least. I'm still kind of sold on him. He's at least fun and definitely a personality hire. But
Mhm.
the questions the questions will come into next season very early on, especially depending on who their coaching situation is. Because coaching.
Yeah. I don't know. Again, it would be fun if it works with Dart and Cam Scattaboo. I almost tried to cram those in together like he would to a brick wall.
Who would be the most insane coach to go with those two? And why is it like Bill Belichick?
No, he's still well now. He's like wilding because he's like dating a 24-year-old. God, what a funny, quiet story that's underlining all this. Where immediately everyone's like, "Oh, that's why none of the NFL teams wanted him, huh?"
Yeah, but like I can imagine at like a press conference, like Scattaboo going, "Hey, yo, coach, you want to go on a double date with me and my girl, with you and your girl?" Like just some
Oh
sort
my god,
of insane like
you lunatic!
insanity. I think there's a level of like silliness that would be involved, but like, no, I think after next week, when we get a better coaching
Sense of like
picture,
what coaches will be available. Yeah.
like, yeah, you got a lot of jobs on the block, and I think there's one I'm most curious about more than anything else at this point, and it is Tampa Bay.
Oh, they might.
I
If this breaks bad next week, it wouldn't surprise me if they do that.
I think it's I I think after the like, there's clear tension there. There's been there for weeks between him and the players. I'm curious to see what happens.
Right. I will say, talking about the Giants, even though they haven't had Malik neighbors, I would be remiss if we did not point out Wandale Robinson. All 5'8" of him is managed to get over 1,000 yards this season.
Yeah,
He might actually be the shortest player to ever have 1,000 receiving yards.
he's definitely holding his own.
I like him. He gets like 90 catches a year. He's like they actually let him like stretch the field this year. He's a weirdly fun guy to watch as like a sort of like elevated gadget player.
I could see him.
Shall we move on?
I can see him, neighbors, and like somebody else, and like put him at like the wide receiver 3 slot, neighbors at 1, and put somebody else at 2. And I feel like that could be a good trio.
Oh yeah. Shall we move on to next week?
Next week we got the schedule decided.
Ooh, yes.
Because
What do we got?
they don't reveal the Week 18 schedule till like Sunday Night Football, I think. We have Saturday games. We're opening the weekend. Panthers, Bucks. We have
Nice.
Seahawks, 49ers. Two hugely important games.
Yes,
Saturday.
one that will give one team or the other the inside track to the NFC South, and one that'll decide the number one seed for the NFC.
Yes. We have a bunch of random games throughout, but like the other more primo slot games is Sunday Night Football, Ravens Steelers, ending this like elaborate battle for the AFC North. And should we talk about the spot the Texans or the Buccaneers are in technically?
Yes, I don't know how this works, and it's only marginally better than having a shady cabal pick 12 teams to be in the playoffs.
I've tried to wrap my head around this. So basically, here's the situation: it's Panthers versus Buccaneers, but Falcons versus Saints, and the Falcons have been secretly winning a lot of their games since they've been eliminated. I think they've won every game since they've been eliminated formally.
Good for them.
When did they get eliminated? Week 14. Yeah, no, they have won every game since formally being eliminated, which is hilarious. So, here is the situation that the NFC South is in. First off, AFC North, clear cut. Winner goes. Winner stays. Loser, have fun in Cancun. But if Carolina wins, Carolina gets the slot.
Right. They control their destiny effectively.
If Tampa Bay wins, it depends on the following day's game, which is even more nerve-wracking that it's in not just two separate time slots. These games are almost 24 hours apart. They're 22 hours apart from start times, which is crazy.
Jesus Christ.
So if the Buccaneers win, because of tiebreaker shenanigans, they need the Saints to win. And the Panthers, because of the same tiebreaker shenanigans, need the Falcons to win. Because if the Buccaneers win and the Saints win, tiebreaker things, Buccaneers are going on. But if the Buccaneers win and the Falcons win, they're all at the same exact record of 8-9, and the Falcons beat the Buccaneers in their tiebreaker. Panthers and Bucks, I don't remember exactly how it goes. Well, I know Panthers have a slight advantage as long as they don't lose crazy bad or something like that. But the Buccaneers lose to the Falcons, who the Panthers beat in the tiebreaker things. So through this whole weird web of just me listing off the teams in the NFC South, the Panthers win. Or the Panthers win the game or they can lose the game, but the Falcons winning puts them in.
Yeah, basically there are two scenarios. The Panthers have slightly more scenarios to get in because they have the inside track. It is stupid. It is convoluted. I'm not even 100% sure how it works. And at this point, I'm just done asking. But you can't say it's not I can't lie and say it isn't reflective of the kind of horse and pony show the NFC South has been running for decades now.
Yeah. No, it is definitely a fun little level of shenanigans. That if the Falcons won one more game this season before they
would be in the playoffs.
They would
after all that,
probably have that. Who is a game that they barely lost?
The Patriots game where they dropped the 2-point conversion.
Yeah, there's that one. Bucks week 1. If they pulled off either of those games, they would have won.
They would have just been in the playoffs. Yep. No, I think about that a lot.
Really,
God knows what's going to happen to that franchise after this week.
Got NFC South. All right. Biggest games of the week, we got obviously Baltimore versus Pittsburgh and Carolina versus Tampa Bay. The closing game of the weekend, the opening game of the weekend. High stakes for both of them. One has way higher stakes on the game than the other, and that is Baltimore versus Pittsburgh, putting it at Sunday night, because Falcons and Buccaneers, or Panthers and Buccaneers, like we said, while it depends on the Panthers, it also depends on the Falcons. Don't sleep on games. I struggled for this one, man.
It really is 2 games of import, and then everyone else is going to rest their starters, basically.
Hot take now. I've had it since I thought about it last week, where I was maybe the Eagles should rest in week 17 just to have fun in week 18. But no, I want the Eagles to rest their starters. They do not have they're going to have a tough game. There's a lot of small little tightness injuries and slight boo boos, I want them to rest their starters. Just get 100% for the playoffs.
I mean, it'll tie in with my don't sleep on game, but I'm on the other end of the spectrum for a number of reasons. Not necessarily for the Eagles, but for the Bills.
But yeah, I didn't know. I was like, who like. There's so many like stories, but not stories. Like, all right, we could do Cleveland versus the Bengals for
Does the sack record get broken?
breaking the sack record. New Orleans versus Atlanta for this absurd scenario of if the Buccaneers win, they decide the NFC South, and for neither team in the game, I was just like, man, I really didn't know at all. Like, do we want like a fun game from like Giants Cowboys where it's just like, all right, we're gonna put in our starters, so because they're not doing anything else. I don't know.
Right, truly, just they're like, I don't know, can somebody do something weird so we have something to talk about next week other than the Steelers-Ravens?
Yeah, but I think a lot of these matchups are like, I'm not gonna bother with Titans Jaguars. That's pretty clear cut. Seahawks 49ers, fun, but it's not a don't sleep on game because it's got its own special.
Right, that's just an important game.
Yeah. And your don't sleep on game is a surprising but not surprising choice.
It's a bit of a homer pick, but it is Bills Jets for a couple reasons. One, it is still up in the air whether or not they're going to play the starters. James Cook currently has the rushing title, but could lose it depending on how Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry play. It very much sounds like they're going to do the one snap and let Josh sit again, which, like, believe him. Yes.
They did it last year. Thought it was funny. If they do it this year,
yes.
I'm gonna still think it's funny.
It just, I don't know. I think you got to at least play one drive.
I think the threshold should be longer, like a drive, or like at least 4 downs. But I still think it is. It might be my favorite bit of the NFL of like week 18. You can count on Josh Allen playing one snap.
But yes, pointedly, he currently has the NFL record for 5 straight seasons with 40 touchdowns. He's currently at 39. So if they don't play him for the drive, they're giving that up. And it really reminds me of the Eagles last year when they chose not to let Saquon go for the all-time rushing record, which there's actually a great line I heard on Philadelphia radio where it's like, do you think you earned that rest? And that's kind of where I'm at with the Bills, where I'm like, did you earn this? Or would you have earned it if you beat the Falcons or Davis Mills or the Miami Dolphins and not have been a wild card team and not be playing for seeding? And also, like, again, if you give up this one record that will, like, immortalize Josh Allen, you kind of have to fucking win the Super Bowl now. You can't give up accolades and then not win the Super Bowl sort of thing. Even though, again, I'm like, no, again, he sprained his foot. No amount of rest is going to fix that. It's a pain management thing at this point. But also, the New York Jets are daring to become the only team since the merger to not catch an interception. So if Mitchell Trubisky plays, is he going to just have one bad throw where he hands it to the other team? But also, it is the final game in Rich Stadium, also known as Ralph Wilson Jr. Stadium, which is how I knew it, also known as New Era Stadium for a very brief moment, and also Highmark Stadium. And again, I think one of the reasons why I've been struggling with the Bills is because it's like, my relationship with this team is this stadium. My dad's relationship, I mean, I guess he saw games back when they played at War Memorial Stadium too, but you know, so much of like our memories are tied to the stadium. And like I said, I just, at the risk of sounding a bit fascist, I don't particularly care for that modernist drivel they call a new stadium.
I was going to say another cookie cutter stadium.
Yes.
In.
It's a vanity piece.
Yeah, it's going to be.
They all use the same couple architects.
It's just going to be this glorified rounded thing with no personality. They're making it in a certain way, so it's going to get less snow and other elements into it. So you're not going to see the Bills fans making slides out of the steps and like shoveling out their own seats, which is hilarious and fun.
Right. As tacky as it is that they pay fans to shovel, it's also like a part of the charm. It's a part of the charm of the team. There's a really great
I mean,
piece that really.
if they just went, hey, you every seat you shovel, you get a free beer voucher. I'm there. I'm gonna shovel out an entire section.
Right. There's a really great line that I really do think sums up, and it's just so jarring seeing like this gigantic fucking monolith of a stadium next to the current stadium. Um, Tonight, the Buffalo Bills take the field in a stadium that was never trying to be beautiful. It didn't need to be. Highmark Stadium, Rich Stadium, as many knew it, is concrete and cold and loud in ways that architecture aren't designed to be anymore. It was built to endure, not impress. New stadiums will fix things. They always do, but places like this create things. And I guess that's kind of. I feel like when that stadium finally gets torn down. What was that?
I was say this kind of goes into my point from the other week of we are losing the tourism aspect of NFL.
We're losing its culture. Like, I kind of wish, and they have to tear it down for parking or whatever the fuck, but I really wish they'd at least keep half of it. Just literally just do a controlled demolition and keep, like, a couple of seats. It just, I don't know. It's kind of like a beautiful, creaky place going away, and they're selling everything that isn't pinned down, including the troughs in the bathrooms. And, like, maybe a part of me is a little sad. I won't get to see a game there, but unless they somehow manage to get to the playoffs and I really play the dead dad card up to, like, 12. Because this amp goes up to 11. Sorry, we just did Princess Bride, so I'm on a Reiner kick right now. It's so funny that, like, right? Yeah, we talked about Andre, and I was just like, God, he's so fun, and I love him in this movie so much. It's so fun. Even though he's in blinding pain from back surgery, he's having so much fun.
That was like the joy of his like last 10 years of life, like his biggest joy. Like, there's a lot of stories of him just being like to like the Macho Man's brother, like, hey, come on over. And it's like, oh yeah, well, it's like, sure, I'll come over. What's up? What do you want to do? And he's like, Princess Bride.
Well, it's funny because Sydney kept invoking Game of Thrones because she's like, I see so much of like the bones of like the fantasy genre, both in this and Game of Thrones, and talking about Hodor or the Mound or whatever it is. Like the big grunt who kills Pedro Pascal. Spoilers for like season 3. But it really is striking that like when we talk about old Hollywood, because so much of that movie is like invoking like the Errol Flynn era of Hollywood, that very like stagey, theatrical golden age of like movie stars and big sets and like dramatic sword fights and stuff. And it is so striking that like in terms of the people they brought in to like create that vision, you know, it's like the two leads who are like look like they're just ripped off of an old Hollywood poster. But then you get like Broadway theatrical stars like Mandy Patinkin. But then you also pull out of your butt like these like great, you get a guy from pro wrestling and you get these great stand-up comedians who just completely and totally understand the tone, energy, and theatrics this thing needs to sing. Like, oh God, what a picture. What a picture.
Oh yeah, great movie, first of all. But like, there's only so much I can go into it without just going off on a spiel about Andre the Giant, and we're
right. If you want to record if you want to take the time tonight to record like 3 minutes, I'll cram him into the episode somewhere. If you just want to talk about why Andre the Giant was important and cool.
I mean, I could always talk about what, like, first off, drinking world record and stuff. But anyway,
oh, I forgot to mention that in the episode. Fuck.
Damn it.
I did mention the Arnold Schwarzenegger story though.
Yeah, it was him and Wilt Chamberlain.
God, sometimes, God, that's a fun celebrity
pairing. It's
pairing.
not like modern art. It is prime Arnold.
Steroid era Arnold.
Conan the Barbarian Arnold got outright.
You had to really get into your haunches to lift that guy up.
But it was like nothing to Andre and Wilt Chamberlain. Anyway, my one last note is if Andre was in his prime for health, he would have like any of the scenes where he's like throwing a huge rock, or like he wouldn't have been able to climb up the mountain like with carrying people like that. But just the outright act of carrying people like that, if he was in his prime, he would have needed no assistance. There's like pictures of him with like 3 girls on each arm, and he's just kind of standing there casually flexing because he was a furniture mover before he became a wrestler.
Right.
I'm going to stop there because I feel like.
Well,
send us home, Carter. Send us home.
Well, no, all I'll say is what's special about that movie is it leans into his physical limitations at the time because it makes him look like a fantasy creature. This lumbering thing that's like a step slower than everyone, but if he gets his hands on you, you're smushed. But yeah, I guess to like wrap up my thoughts to actually get it back to because I was talking about Spinal Tap and how weirdly important that is to me because Guitar Hero. But yeah, I guess it's interesting because when that stadium goes down, you talk about the tourism element, but it's not even the tourism element of it. It's this was my home for this team. And like, do I become a nomad? Do I become like a man without a home sort of thing? And it would be interesting to see, like, I do hope at the barest minimum, the backups put on a show. Like, I know in the grand scheme of things, we wish the last game in Highmark Stadium mattered, but at the same time, maybe it's for the best that like we don't have any stress about this game. It's kind of meaningless other than positional seeding and stuff. But like whatever, you're going to be an underdog going into any of these, unless you play the Steelers, I guess. But yeah, and I think that is kind of the note we will leave on. We're getting to the end of the year. The story, it is interesting that like the Bills are one of the handful of teams who, even though the story in this stadium's ending, their story is going to get written into weeks 18, 19, 20, 21, depending on however long they stay in the playoffs. And we are getting to that point where whether or not your story gets to continue this season is kind of dependent on how next week goes. So let's all lock in, grab our pencil sharpeners, and write one more chapter before we get to the playoffs.